A place where the temperature regularly climbs to 55 degrees Celsius in the shade, and for hundreds of kilometers, there is no shade at all. An ocean of incandescent sand that kills all life, desiccating a body in a matter of hours. The Sahara, the greatest hot desert on Earth. We have been conditioned to see it as a zone of death, an absolute shimmering void. A place where time itself came to a standstill millions of years ago, leaving nothing behind but silicon, a skin-flaying wind, and the merciless sun. We look upon a satellite map of Africa and see a giant, jaundiced stain, a scar on the body of the planet that feels eternal, unchanging, and hostile. But this is a deception. The greatest, most persuasive optical illusion ever crafted by climate and time. The Sahara lies with every dune. It is a mask. For even now, in the most inaccessible and dangerous regions of Morocco, Algeria, Mauritania, and Niger, a quiet but grandiose scientific revolution is unfolding. Paleontologists, risking their lives on the fringes of military conflict zones, across minefields, and through the territory of smugglers, are extracting from the red sandstone the bones of a creature that is forcing us to rewrite the very textbooks of biology. A being that was larger, heavier, and more terrifying than Tyrannosaurus Rex. A creature that should have reigned supreme on land, but instead chose the water, becoming the emperor of the rivers. Thousands of kilometers away, another secret stirs. In the isolated mountain gorges of the Enedi and Tagant plateaus, places so forbidding that even the nomadic Tuareg do not venture there, biologists have found living witnesses to that lost epoch have hidden in pockets of stone, clinging to the last drops of water left behind by a great ancient flood, surviving against all odds. To understand this hidden world, we must descend into the heart of the danger, into a geological layer known as the Kem Kem Formation, a place scientists have called the single most dangerous location in the history of life on Earth. Here we will reconstruct the image of a predator that swam in the desert. We will walk through a valley littered with the bones of whales that once had legs, and uncover the traces of a civilization that knew the Sahara not as a desert, but as a blooming garden. Our investigation begins in the southeast of Morocco, on the harsh, stony border with Algeria. Here, among the superheated red cliffs, lies the geological formation known as the Kem Kem Group. To the untrained eye, it is nothing but lifeless red rock and dust. But to a paleontologist, it is a crime scene of planetary scale. The sand is beginning to shift, and what lies beneath is still hungry. Deep within the scorched rock of North Africa lies a vast treasure trove from the Cretaceous period. But when scientists began to systematically analyze the fossils unearthed here over the last 100 years, they confronted an ecological impossibility, a riddle etched in stone that they would call the Kem Kem Enigma. In any healthy ecosystem, ancient or modern, of forests of Jurassic North America, the structure is constant. At its broad base, an immense biomass of plant life. Above it, a teeming multitude of herbivores, the antelope, the zebra, the mighty sauropods. And at the very apex, a scant few predators, the lions and the tyrannosaurs. It is a law as fundamental as thermodynamics. To sustain a single lion, one needs a herd of antelope. But in the 100-million-year-old layers of the Kem Kem, this law was broken. The pyramid was inverted, turned violently on its head. The fossil record painted a strange and terrifying picture. Herbivorous dinosaurs were scarce, almost ghosts in the landscape. In their place, the land swarmed with giants. A nightmarish, catastrophic abundance of theropods, each the size of a city bus, literally infested this ancient world. There was Carcharodontosaurus, the shark-toothed lizard, a killer with a skull 1.5 meters long, rivaling Tyrannosaurus in size, but thought to be faster, more aggressive. There was Deltadromeus, the delta runner, a swift and deadly predator built for pursuit on long, slender legs. And there were multiple species of giant crocodilomorphs, capable of walking on straightened limbs. And then there was the king of this Cretaceous hell, a creature whose bones were first unearthed in 1912 in the Egyptian oasis of Bahariya by a German aristocrat, a visionary paleontologist named Ernst Stromer von Reichenbach. What Stromer found was something that defied all convention. He gazed upon a jaw, slender and crocodilian, yet stretching an astonishing 2 meters in length. He saw teeth, not built for slicing flesh, but the vertebrae, rising 1.5 to 2 meters from the animal's back, forming a colossal sail of bone and skin. He would name it Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, the Egyptian spined lizard. But the world would not have time to learn its name. History, in all its great and terrible force, intervened. Stromer transported the precious skeleton to the Paleontological Museum in Munich, where it became the pearl of the collection. But then came the Second World War. Stromer, a man of profound integrity, openly despised the Nazi regime and refused to join the party. The museum's director, however, was a fanatical loyalist. As Allied bombing raids began to hammer German cities, Stromer pleaded with the director to evacuate the unique collection to the safety of a salt mine. But driven by personal spite and ideological blindness, the director refused. The bones would remain. On the night of April 24, 1944, bombers of the Royal Air Force descended upon the center of Munich. The museum was reduced to rubble. Fire raged for days, consuming everything within. The world's only skeleton of Spinosaurus, the sole physical proof of this magnificent predator, was incinerated, turned to ash and dust. A creature that had survived 100 million years entombed in rock was erased in a single night by human conflict, a ghost lost not to time, but to tragedy. For more than 60 years, it was a ghost, a paleontological myth pieced together from fragments, then lost to the ravages of war. No one truly a role, a terrestrial titan, a Tyrannosaurus clone with a bizarre sail stitched onto its back, running on 2 powerful legs across an arid prehistoric landscape. This was a fabrication. It was a profound error, an illusion born from incomplete data. It was a lie told by bones that could not speak for themselves. The truth began to surface in the year 2008. In Morocco, within the sun-scorched strata of the Kem Kem beds, a local Bedouin, an illicit hunter of fossils, unearthed a strange and perplexing piece of bone. He passed it on in a simple cardboard box to a young paleontologist named Nizar Ibrahim. That unassuming fragment was a key, a single note in a lost symphony. Ibrahim knew he had to find its source. He returned to the Sahara, embarking on a near-impossible quest. to find one specific man in an ocean of dunes, to locate one specific patch of sand from a vague memory. In what can only be described as a miracle of persistence, he found the place, he found the man, and together they began to dig. What they slowly, painstakingly assembled from the earth sent a shockwave through the scientific world. This was the neotype of Spinosaurus. Bafflingly short, almost comically so for a predator of its scale. It became physically clear this animal could not have pursued prey on land. Its own immense weight would have tipped it forward into the dust. Its feet were broad, the claws flat, shaped not for slashing, but for paddling through a viscous medium. Its torso was long. And then there were the bones themselves. They were dense, heavy as stone, lacking the hollow, air-filled cavities typical of other predatory theropod. One was heavy. The question hung in the desert air. Why would an apex predator want to be heavy? The answer came not from the land, but from the water. It was a matter of biology, of physics. An animal needs mass to submerge, to overcome the relentless upward-wrecking form, and it was the form of an aquatic leviathan. Imagine a river system flowing through what is now the world's greatest desert. A network of waterways wider than any we know today, dwarfing the Amazon and the Nile combined. In these murky, sediment-choked channels swim fish the size of automobiles. The ancient coelacanth, Morsonia, and the formidable sawfish, Onchopristis, armed with a 2-meter serrated rostrum, and hunting them, a 15-meter reptile weighing between 7 and 9 tons. Larger than Tyrannosaurus, larger than Giganotosaurus, the most colossal predator to ever walk or swim upon the earth. It did not stalk the riverbanks. It lived within the river. It would glide through the gloom, its long snout pitted with pressure sens. Its immense sail, laced with blood vessels, would have sliced through the surface, the fin of a primeval nightmare, a beacon of dominance to rivals, or perhaps a vast radiator to regulate its internal temperature. But skepticism lingered. The final, irrefutable proof would not emerge until 2020. In that same desert, at a site known as Regat, Ibrahim's expedition unearthed the closing argument, a nearly complete, fully articulated tail. We had grown accustomed to the tails of theropods, stiff, tapering rods, acting as rigid counterbalances for running. The tail of Spinosaurus was an utter revelation. It was adorned with towering, flattened spines from top to bottom. It was flexible. This was the tail of a newt, of a triton, magnified 1,000 times. The ghost was finally given form. The myth was replaced by a far stranger, more magnificent reality. It serves as a profound reminder that the past is not a static museum of settled facts, but a living, breathing mystery. And deep beneath the sands of our modern world, secrets still wait, ready to shatter our certainties and reshape the very definition of a monster. A scythe of muscle and bone, engineered to propel an immense body through the water with terrifying velocity. This was not a tale, it was a living engine. Computer simulations conducted at Harvard University revealed a staggering truth. The thrust generated by this appendage was not merely powerful, it was 8 times greater than that of any other known theropod. Beneath the sands of the Sahara, the fossil record was concealing the greatest predator in the history of our world. Not a king of the land, but an emperor of the rivers. This was Spinosaurus, the river god of the ancient world, a creature that moved upon the shore with the ungainly waddle of a giant duck. Yet, in its aquatic realm, it was absolute death. Its world was a vast, verdant network of waterways, a freshwater paradise teeming with life. But where did this great river system vanish? Where did its monsters go? They disappeared 94 million years ago. A period of profound global warming raised the planet's oceans, and the sea, in its relentless advance, swallowed North Africa. The freshwater ecosystem, the very foundation of the Spinosaurus's empire, was systematically dismantled. The emperor was dethroned, not by a rival, but by the planet itself. Its habitat was erased, and with it, the creature vanished from existence. But the story of the Sahara did not end there. It holds another chapter, one no less astonishing, for it is a chapter that is still being written. We leap forward from the Cretaceous period to our own time. We find ourselves in the Western Sahara, upon the Tagant Plateau of Mauritania. This is a stone desert, a landscape so alien, so hostile, it feels Martian. A world of red rock and silence. There are no rivers here. Rain may not fall for years at a time. By day, the temperature of the stones is high enough to bake bread. By night, the cold is absolute. Yet carve-erect sun almost never penetrates. And in these permanent shadows lie the gueltas, natural rock basins filled with water. They are the last precious tears of an ancient, forgotten hydrosystem, the final remnants of a once unimaginable luxury. For centuries, local nomads spoke of these pools in hushed tones, weaving legends of dragons that lived within their depths. They told of beasts hiding in submerged caves, snatching goats and camels that dared to drink. The water, they warned, was both sacred and dangerous. To the European scientists of the 20th century, these were mere fables, the colorful folklore of a desert people. Crocodiles in the heart of the Sahara? The idea was absurd. These were cold-blooded reptiles, utterly dependent on large bodies of water. They would perish from desiccation and heat stroke within a week of attempting to cross the burning sands. But in the early 2000s, a German biological expedition finally reached the Guelta d'Ache. As they approached the water's edge, the still surface hissed, and from the stagnant, emerald depths, a pair of yellow, vertical pupils stared back. They were crocodiles, but not the Nile giants, the 6-meter behemoths known for tearing wildebeest apart during their migrations. These were different, smaller, darker. Their snouts were shorter, blunter. This was the desert crocodile, Crocodilus sucus. For decades, it was dismissed as a dwarf subspecies of its Nile cousin. But genetic analysis, completed in the year 2010, proved it was a distinct species, an ancient species, a ghost species. How could they possibly exist here, stranded in the middle of the world's largest and hottest desert? The answer lies not in biology, but in the grand, cyclical rhythms of the planet itself. A mere 10 to 12 A of the Green Sahara. The Earth's axis was tilted differently then, shifting monsoon patterns northward. What is now a sea of sand was a vibrant savanna, laced with rivers and dotted with vast lakes. It was through this forgotten water world that the ancestors of these crocodiles swam, populating a continent. When the planet's tilt shifted once more, the rains retreated. The rivers dried up, the lakes evaporated, and the desert returned. But in these deep, shaded canyons, a few pockets of water remained. And in these pockets, the crocodiles remained with them. They are not invaders of the desert, they are prisoners of time. Each one is a living relic of a lost paradise, a biological message in a bottle, a reminder that the world we see is but a fleeting chapter in a much older and far grander story. The monsoon rains once marched north. An atmospheric tide, now long receded, pushed life-giving moisture deep into the heart of Africa. A landscape we now know only as sand and stone was a verdant kingdom, painted in the impossible greens of life. This was the Green Sahara. Mighty freshwater rivers, arteries of a thriving world, carved their way through the land, their currents feeding the great basins of the Nile, the Niger, and a vast lake. Across this boundless savanna, life moved in biblical proportions. Herds of elephants, their calls echoing for miles, shared the plains with graceful giraffes and vast congregations of antelope. The waterways, wide and deep, were the domain of the hippopotamus, and beneath their placid surfaces, millions of crocodiles thrived, apex predators in a world of plenty. They were the undisputed kings of this aquatic Eden. But this paradise was built on a cosmic knife edge. Approximately 5,000 years ago, the planetary pendulum swung. The delicate wobble of the Earth's axis, a cycle that had blessed the Sahara with rain, shifted its favor. The monsoons retreated south. The rains, once a certainty, became a memory. With a speed, the transformation was absolute and merciless. Great rivers dwindled into meandering streams. The streams shrank into isolated pools. The pools evaporated into mud, and the mud cracked and surrendered, becoming dust. A wave of desiccation swept across the continent, erasing a world. The animals, sensing the coming of a permanent thirst, began a great migration. The elephants and the gid. Their silent testimony remains etched into the rock faces of the Tassili Niger, ghostly figures of a world that was. For one ancient lineage, however, retreat was not an option. The crocodiles, creatures intrinsically bound to water, could not embark on a long march across the newly born desert. The burning sand was a barrier as absolute as any ocean. They were caught in a brutal climatic vice. As the waters receded, the récifs of the Enedi Plateau and the Guelta d'Arquet. Here, in the deep, shaded canyons, water lingered, evaporating at a slower pace. They found themselves stranded in stone prisons, isolated pockets of life, separated from their kin by hundreds of kilometers of incandescent sand and certain death. Their adaptation in the face of this slow-motion apocalypse has astonished biologists. It stands as one of the most extreme examples of survival ever documented on our planet. They learned to cheat time itself. These reptilian relics mastered the art of estivation, a form of summer hibernation. As the dry season reaches its zenith and the last pools, known as gueltas, shrink into little more than liquid mud, the crocodiles abandon the sun. They crawl into deep, cool caves beneath the canyon walls. Here they begin a journey, not across land, but into the very heart of stillness. Their metabolism slows to a near-total standstill. Their heart slows to a whisper, a beat or two per minute. Respiration all but ceases. In the cool, silent dark of subterranean chambers, they become living statues, entombed by their own will, waiting for a rain that may not come for half a year or longer. They do not eat for months on end. Evolution, in its relentless pragmatism, sculpted them anew. They shrank. A phenomenon known as insular dwarfism, typically seen on islands, played out here in these isolated islands of water. To survive on a meager food supply, a smaller body was more efficient. Today, these desert crocodiles rarely exceed 2.5 meters in length. Their very nature was reforged in the crucible of scarcity. The ferocious territoriality of their river-dwelling ancestors became a liability. In a tiny pool, to fight is to risk injury and death for all. And so, they learned a form of tolerance. In a single gwelter, a dozen crocodiles might lie side by side, packed as tightly as sardines in a tin, a peaceable kingdom born of necessity. They subsist on the fish and frogs that share their shrinking world, and when the rare rains do fall, they might snatch a bird or a small mammal that ventures too close. In the direst of times, they will turn on each other, a grim reminder of their primal nature. What is most astonishing is what they carry within them. Isolated for millennia, they are genetically pure, a living, breathing snapshot of the Green Sahara. They are a time capsule with teeth. The local people, the Tubu, have long understood this bond. They revere these creatures, not as monsters, but as custodians of life itself. There is an ancient belief: if the crocodiles vanish, the water will vanish with them. And they are right. The crocodiles are ecosystem engineers. Their movements in the mud prevent the gwelters from silting up, keeping the underground springs clear. Their excrement fertilizes the water, sustaining the plankton that feeds the fish, which in turn feed the crocodiles. They are the guardians of the oasis. Yet now, these living relics stand on the final precipice. The climate continues to grow ever drier. The water is increasingly drawn by humans for their livestock. The disturbance from tourism shatters their fragile peace. These last dinosaurs of the Sahara are a living testament to an Eden lost to the shifting sands of time. Their struggle is a stark reminder that the climate is a great pendulum, capable of turning paradise into an inferno in the span of mere centuries. They pose a silent, profound question. If these masters of endurance, these survivors of a lost world, can be pushed to the very edge of oblivion, what hope remains for those who have not yet learned to live with so little? In the heart of what is now the world's greatest desert, an echo of a far more ancient, far more violent world persists. Deep within the sands of the Sahara, in the territory of modern-day Niger, the paleontologist Paul Sereno unearthed the remains of a creature whose ancestor was nothing short of a titan. They would name it Sarcosuchus imperator, the Flesh Emperor. This was no dinosaur. This was something else entirely. A crocodilomorph of nightmarish scale. It stretched to a colossal 12 meters in length and weighed a staggering 8 tons. It was twice as long and fully 10 times the mass of the largest saltwater crocodiles alive today. Its skull alone was a fortress of bone and teeth, measuring 1.5 meters from snout to neck. In its world, Sarcosuchus did not fear dinosaurs. It consumed them. It would lie in wait, submerged in the same lush river systems that the mighty Spinosaurus called home. A living log of armored death, patient and silent. When a dinosaur, parched by the Cretaceous sun, lowered its head to drink, the water would erupt. Jaws clamping shut with a force of 8 tons would seize the victim, dragging it into the depths to be torn apart. Its body was a fortress, shielded by a thick hide embedded with interlocking bony plates, the osteoderms, which rendered the teeth of other predators useless. This was the living tank of the Cretaceous period, and it reigned supreme in a world of water and green, where now only dust and silence remain. But to believe that a lost world of giant crocodiles and river monsters is the Sahara's only secret is to underestimate the depths of time buried beneath the sand. For this desert hides evidence of an even more profound transformation, proof that this entire landscape was once swallowed by a global ocean. We travel to Egypt. 150 kilometers southwest of Cairo, deep within the Libyan desert, lies a place of impossible beauty and paleontological wonder, Wadi al-Hitan. In Arabic, its name means the Valley of the Whales. To walk here is to tread on the floor of a vanished sea. The crunch underfoot is not gravel, it is the fossilized echo of life. Vertebrae, some as large as a water bucket, litter the landscape. Here, laid bare by the wind, are hundreds of complete skeletons of ancient cetaceans, an open-air museum curated by time itself. These are the remains of Basilosaurus, the king lizard, and Dorudon. They swam here 40 million years ago during the Eocene epoch. Then there was no sand, only the warm, tropical waters of the ancient Tethys Sea, the vast ocean that separated the nascent continents of Africa and Eurasia. Basilosaurus was a chimera, a creature of paradox. It was a whale, yet it bore the uncanny form of a gargantuan sea serpent. Its body, slender and sinuous, could reach 20 meters in length. Its jaws were not filled with the baleen of its modern descendants, but with a terrifying array of differentiated teeth, incisors, canines, and molars, capable of shearing through the bones of sharks and giant sea turtles. But the most shocking discovery, the detail that rewrites the very story of life on Earth, was found near the creature's tail. Basilosaurus had legs. Tiny, almost vestigial, yet perfectly formed hind limbs, a femur, a knee, a tibia and fibula, an ankle, and even distinct toes. They were an anatomical ghost, a memory of a life long abandoned. These legs could never have supported its 20-ton frame on land. They did not even connect to the creature's spine. Scientists now believe they served a singular, vital purpose, as claspers during mating, anchors to hold partners together in the fluid chaos of the open ocean. Here was the missing link rendered in stone. Irrefutable physical proof that the largest mammals to ever live began their journey on solid ground, as four-legged predators, relatives of hippos and deer, who made the momentous decision to return to the sea. And preserved within the fossilized remains of their stomachs, a final, brutal secret was revealed. They were not just apex predators, they were cannibals. Wadi al-Hitan is more than a graveyard of giants. It is a monument to transformation, a silent testament to evolution's relentless and often bizarre ingenuity. It reminds us that the ground beneath our feet is never static, that deserts were once oceans, and that even the most dominant creatures are but a single, fleeting chapter in the immense, unwritten story of the Earth. An ancient sea, warm and teeming with life, is a hunting ground. Here, the leviathan known as Spinosaurus reigns supreme. A colossal, serpentine predator, it does not hunt fish or squid, but its own smaller kin. This is a place of birth and a place of death. The Dorudon, a more compact species of whale, travels to these shallow waters to bear its young. Countless skeletons of their calves have been found here, a testament to this being a vast, primordial nursery. But this sanctuary is a trap, life that was also a killing field. Among the remains of these cetacean giants lie other ghosts of this lost ocean. The bones of ancient sea cows, the Sirenians, speak of gentle grazers in submarine meadows. The fossilized shells of immense sea turtles and the serrated teeth of megalithic sharks complete the tableau of a vibrant, violent ecosystem. Today, there is only sand. An eternal wind scours the landscape, peeling back the dunes grain by grain. And with each passing year, new bones emerge from their slumber, bleached by the sun. The desert is exhaling its dead, telling the story of how a sea became a tomb, and a tomb became a wilderness. But the sands of North Africa hold secrets on a scale that defies human comprehension. Secrets fully revealed only from the heavens. In Mauritania, not far from the last holdouts of the desert crocodile, lies a feature known as the Richat structure. To the world, it is the Eye of the Sahara, a vast geological iris 50 kilometers in diameter, stares unblinking into the void of space. Its perfect, concentric rings of blue and yellow stone alternate with uncanny precision. From orbit, it resembles a colossal target, the fingerprint of a god, or an eye returning the gaze of the cosmos. So perfect is its form that astronauts on early space missions used it as a critical visual landmark in the vast, featureless expanse of the desert. For decades, its origin was presumed to be an act of cosmic violence, the scar left by a gigantic meteorite impact. But the evidence refused to align. The floor of the structure is flat, lacking the telltale bowl shape of a crater. There are no traces of the superheated, melted rock one would expect from such a cataclysm. And crucially, there is no shocked quartz, a mineral forged only in the unimaginable pressures of an asteroid strike. Geologists now believe the Eye is the ghost of a volcano that never was. A massive dome of magma, a titan struggling from below, pushed the Earth's crust upward. Before it could erupt, the pressure caused the layers of rock to buckle and fracture in perfect sculpture, planing away the dome's crown and exposing its inner anatomy for the world to see. The rings are simply layers of harder and softer rock, quartzite and shales, eroding at different rates. But whether a stage for gods or lost civilizations, the Sahara was once a world of monsters. We return to the River of Giants, where the water-bound Spinosaurus hunted. Here, the sky itself offered no sanctuary. Soaring on thermal currents above the river was the alanka. This was a pterosaur, a flying reptile, but one far removed from the creatures of popular cinema. With a wingspan of 6 to 9 meters, it was the size of a modern fighter jet. It possessed a long, toothless beak, leave it skimmed the water's surface, a feathered guillotine snatching fish with terrifying speed. Others propose a more terrestrial horror, that it stole a single devastating thrust of its head. Its neck was as powerful as a bull's, a bizarre contradiction to a skeleton made of bones, as hollow and fragile as parchment. From the whale graveyards of Egypt to the enigmatic eye of Mauritania, from the river titans to the demons of the air, the earth does not forget. Its history is not written in ink, but in stone and bone. It simply waits for the wind to turn a new page, revealing another verse in the epic of a world that was, and a planet that is constantly remaking itself. They were the kings of the air, living delta wings that cast immense shadows upon the river monsters below. This was the Sahara, not as we know it, but as a lost world teeming with life. For this great expanse is no mere void. It is the planet's vast and dusty archive, and beneath its thin, shifting skin of sand lie the unread pages of Earth's deepest history. The discovery of Spinosaurus proved that the age of reptiles was far more versatile than we had ever dared to believe. Here was a dinosaur that had abandoned the land, conquering the aquatic realm to become a river titan beyond our wildest imagination. A colossal predator, longer than a Tyrannosaurus rex, it was a creature perfectly engineered for the sprawling network of waterways that once nourished this land. Yet this desert holds stories from countless different epochs. In the place now known as Wadi al-Hitan, the Valley of the Whales, the sand tells an even more profound story of transformation. It proves that vibrant seas can become the driest of deserts, and that the ancestors of the ocean's greatest mammals once walked upon the shore on 4 legs. The Sahara is a warning, etched across millions of square kilometers. There was a time when this was a paradise of green meadows and powerful, life-giving rivers. But the climate shifted, not by the hand of man, but by the slow, inexorable wobble in the Earth's orbit. The rains retreated, and paradise was scorched into a furnace. Today, we are the agents of change. The Sahara has begun to stir once more, its sandy frontiers creeping south, consuming lands and cities in the Sahel. And yet, in a profound paradox, the very warming we have triggered may one day lure the monsoons back, closing a cycle measured in millennia. What has struck scientists most is the shocking fragility of a world. The giant Spinosaurus, sovereign of its river kingdom, vanished when that river dried up. It was too specialized, too immense, too dependent on a world that was destined to disappear. But the small desert crocodile, retreating into a subterranean burrow, survived. It endured by waiting, by entering a slumber that could last for centuries, its life a testament to patience. Herein lies the ultimate lesson of the Sahara. Survival is not a prize for the strong, but a consequence of adaptation. It belongs to those who can accommodate the encroaching emptiness, and the sand continues to guard its secrets. Satellites trace the ghosts of ancient rivers, some several kilometers wide, buried beneath the dunes. Deep within them may lie the bones of beings we cannot yet conceive, waiting for the geologist's pick to awaken a new dragon from the dust.